basically cobbling together like all sorts of random shit to try to like pretend that it works. You're like, no, the build system just needs to work. You know, start at one corner, get that corner fixed, and then build from that corner. And that's literally, like, if you do anything else, you're toast. I think it's probably just going to come down to this Paper 2D plugin, just me needing to just yank it and put my stuff in one at a time. It's probably what's going to happen. Yeah, it's pretty cheesy. Yeah, the guy was an intern, and he obviously didn't understand what he was doing and why it was bad. And he just wouldn't listen to us. So I was like, well, why did you even call us over to help if you're not going to listen to anything we have to say? And then we just left. I was like, it's your fucking problem. He ended up just like not merging anything. It was pretty sad. So it was like his intern project was unusable by anybody. Yeah, it works on my machine. Yeah. We had it even worse than that. At some places, like, we had people who would just get the thing to compile and then check it in, and they never run their code, and like, you just kind of throw up your hands to those people. It's just like, what the hell are you doing? It's like, well, it compiled. To be like, well, that doesn't mean shit. It just means it compiled. Alright, so we're still having this Paper 2D craziness. So what we're going to do is we're going to yank Paper 2D out entirely. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to Plugins, 2D, and it's just, is it Paper 2D and Paper 2D Editor? It's all of Paper 2D. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to copy Paper 2D out and throw it over in a different folder. And then we're going to toast this copy and grab the pristine copy and chunk it in there, and then we'll try to get it to compile. Yeah, well, you know, interns can be hit and miss. I mean, we had one guy who just, it was just, oh man, he had like, we had the tech director and me, because I was supposed to be like responsible for this guy, and you know, we had this one conversation. Oh, look at this crap. We got their pristine version of their fucking thing, and it still has this crap running improperly. Alright, well, we'll regenerate all of our solution files and see if anything changed. Like one guy, he just did not understand why he was doing what he was doing. He was making like some bar that would go around or some frame that would go around our web page so we could do a whole bunch of stuff. Alright, yeah, this stuff's all sorts of fucked up. It's still not working. With a pristine Paper 2D plugin on there. So, why? What could possibly be different? Well, let's just do a full scan of differences and go through it a little bit. It may also be that there's some like intermediate files or something somewhere that are getting screwed. You know, something didn't get cleaned up. Oh yeah, well we had this web frame that he was putting around the borders of Dragon Age Legends, and just, you know, the reason we wanted a web frame was so we could wrap all the games that we were going to make online in this frame, and the frame would have a whole bunch of standard functionality, like we could send push notifications to the frame, all the standard telemetry, you know, like crash issues and things like that for any games that were running inside of this frame. And we needed him to make like the notification system for it, and he was working on this for just like 3 months, and just after 3 months, you know, he didn't have anything, and he was just like, I don't understand why I'm doing any of this at all, and all that sort of stuff. And we're like, well, you know, we'd explained it to him like lots of times that, you know, it was, you know, it wasn't game stuff, but it was necessary for the games that we were running with, you know, to have core functionality shared across, and just couldn't get it through his head. And it just, the tech director, he just got fed up with it at one point. He's just like, well, then, like, you're not fit to be an engineer if you're not actually going to do this work. Like, you have to be able to sit down and do work that you don't always understand and do it well. Like, that's why you're paid to do the job. You know, a lot of the job is fun. A lot of the job is making really cool and interesting things. But, like, we pay people because it's not always fun, and you don't always understand what's going on. And we ended up getting nothing out of him. And, you know, I had to write the only negative review I've ever written of somebody in a professional scope. And just like, do not hire this guy. He doesn't follow instructions, and all that. It's just like, damn, it was rough. He ended up getting a job at another place later. I at least know that because one of the managers there knows him. And apparently he did really well at that other place. So I guess he just absolutely hated working on web stuff and working on kind of non-game code around a game, which, Or maybe he just grew the hell up after a couple years and realized he needed to get off his high horse and do his job. So, I can actually disable this thing inside of enforce this inside of our build.cs. I can actually go disable this shit for paper 2D. But if we can get it, supposedly there's a 20 to 50% improvement in our compile times. Now, our compile times haven't actually been too bad for our project. It's only been like when we've changed like a paper 2D thing or something else that's been a pain in the ass. So we could just turn off enforcement of it, and it's really not a big deal. So I think we're actually going to turn off enforcement because it's not an issue for us. But I want to take one last stab at looking at this diff before I just use the axe. But some interns, we got some really good other interns. Like one guy, like actually, yeah, just all of our interns that we had, other than just like the one or two just like bad apples, were super motivated, did tons of work. It's pretty funny. Some interns will actually do a better job than the full-time employees because, you know, they're actually trying. And some of them get imposter syndrome because they're doing so well. It's really funny. Where they'll be like working on something and they'll see like a bad habit or something that's just wrong. And they'll be like, am I doing things wrong? You know, when they're actually doing everything correctly. Because, you know, they just went to school and don't have like the bad habits built into them. And they'll be like start doing like all this shit that's like really stupid that some of the other engineers have done. And you go like, why are you doing this? He's like, well, the rest of the team does it. And I'm like, you know, that's wrong. You're doing it right. Like, don't do those bad habits. And he's like, oh, I'm right. I mean, I just assumed that I was doing everything wrong. They're like, no, you're smarter than most of these people that are working here, dude. You need to realize that. So, it was always fun to that happened more often than the other way around, which was encouraging. So, yeah. Yeah, freaking hell. Every header now includes everything it needs. There's core minimal header that gets you city, ubiquitous file types. Man, I understand why Unreal wants to do all this header nonsense, but at the same time, like, how's all the secret things? Well, we got all of our super secret planning done yesterday, and all the things. Basically figuring out what we're doing for the rest of the year, how we're getting to ship. Because when you go from prototype, you kind of have these inflection points where you sit down and ask yourself questions that you hope you already know the answers to. Like, one of the questions you ask yourself is, should we continue working on the game? And, you know, just all these basic things that you should be able to respond with decent information for. Yeah, see, like, this should all be good. Let's look in our source. Like, the only things that are different are, like, these factory files that we already know and we already fixed. And these are just basic, like, what's even difference? Like, left only with project files, it's not a problem. Runtime, engine, classes, components, yeah, like, all this stuff is looking like what it should. There's a fucking back file here still? God damn it. WinMerge is pissing me the fuck off. So yeah, we went through that whole process. It took quite a while. But you kind of figure out what you're doing, and, like, you know, you ask yourself questions such as, you know, should we change the game? And, you know, you go through a very, it's more of a process of writing down where you are and all that sort of stuff. Alright, yeah, I'm gonna slap in the, because this is just paper 2D being a complete pile of crap. I mean, we already knew it was a complete pile of crap, but this is just silly. Things are getting serious. Things have always been serious. It's just you do different things. And we did come to some conclusions, and we did change things. A lot of those things that we changed, you know, have really no bearing on a lot of different things. So it's not like stuff that we want to share with anybody, but. Alright, so I need to change these build. Turn math and electronic circuitry. So let's just see if we can change this crap. We cannot actually set it on target. Alright. Well, I really liked like the electrical engineering portions of my programming stuff in college. That was cool stuff. I liked it. So I guess you don't, but I guess, are you doing actually like physical electronic circuit stuff, or are you just like doing diagrams and crap? Because diagrams and stuff, yeah, those suck. Those are just boring and not really helpful. I find it when you actually sit down and build the electric circuits and hook up, like your robots and everything. That's actual like, hey, this is working properly. Alright, so yeah, this enforcement stuff has actually fixed the problems with this thing being a complete pile of crap. So we're going to go ahead and go make sure that our other plugins don't use it. Because, sure, it's an optimization. I'm not going to lose sleep over our compile times being 30 seconds as opposed to 15. There's still 15 seconds. It's not like it's an order of magnitude fix of like everything being amazing. And people can go absolutely insane with like fixing headers and all that sort of stuff, and I'd rather not go insane. You like logical circuits? The opposite of me. Well then. Well then, there's just multiple types of people in the world. Yeah, I'm the kind of person who really likes getting hands-on with stuff, making it all work. That's what I live for. High school was, I didn't care about any of the theoretical stuff. I wanted to go build flamethrowers, which we did. We built flamethrowers out of like super soakers with, we just put gasoline in the super soakers and, put a blowtorch on the front of it, duct taped on there, kind of like aliens. And just like with gas, and we did that in our front yard. That's what we did. That was great. And we experimented with different types of gasoline and mixtures of oil and all that stuff. And what we found that worked the best was getting Coleman fuel, white gas, from the store, because Coleman fuel burns at a much lower temperature and also burns very, very quickly. So it's a lot safer. Like if you spilled like Coleman fuel on yourself and lit it on fire, you can actually let yourself burn for a couple seconds and you'll be absolutely fine. Just put it out quickly and you won't even get a tiny burn. The nozzle melt? No. We duct tape these things on properly. And nothing blew up. The problem, of course, was your super soaker plastic is gonna not really do too well with exposure to any sort of spirits. So, non-polar stuff dissolves non-polar stuff. So, super soaker not gonna last too long. And of course, you don't want to be using it for water after that because you'll be spraying, chemicals all over yourselves, which is just that's how we do it in the States. Probably the most dangerous thing there is we did make a high pressure flamethrower. So basically, you take a PVC canister and you fill parts of it with gas, and you fill other parts with highly compressed air, like really highly compressed air, like 160 psi chambers. So you're basically hooking up a pneumatic cannon which fires aerosolized fuel into a flame. And instead of making it a flamethrower, it would just make an explosion. So, which was actually awesome because you fire this thing and it just boom! It would just like immediately blow up a half gallon of gas or something like that. Within a second, because normally it takes a little while for things to actually combust, right? But if they're already mixed with air, it doesn't have to burn through anything. It just blows up. And we fired that only a couple times, mainly because it started leaking. Um, and you might think, hey, we're pressurizing this thing up to like 160 psi and it's full of gas and it's next to open flames. Why would the hell would you ever like stop using something that's leaking, right? Like, it was leaking, of course, because the gas was starting to degrade the glue and PVC and other pipe fixtures we were using to connect all this crap together. So yeah, we that thing didn't last too long. We would have had to have made more, and it was kind of annoying to use. So we just kind of stuck with the basic flamethrower setups that we had made that worked real well. Which of course the best one was we took one of those like CPS 2500s and did it get a forge. Yeah. I'll make sure to put it outside. We don't want to die because we're inhaling carbon monoxide fumes. Yeah, I didn't do metalworking in high school. We didn't have any like shop class sort of stuff. But my dad he has still a shopsmith, which is basically this tool thing with an engine that can be configured to do anything. Like it can turn into a lathe, it can turn into a just a normal saw. You can move all these angles around. It's this really cool thing, and so we'd like build stuff like everything. You made a steam engine, all right. Well, I didn't make any engines. We just made stuff in the yard, like we made a whole bunch of wooden trellises, and all sorts of crap like that. And I made 2 hovercraft. Only one of them worked. The first one didn't work. The second one worked, but it was just too damn dangerous. Like a single piston steam engine. Yeah, I didn't actually build a whole complicated thing. Mine was more like I hooked up pre-made engines to things and then bolted them down really high, really hard, and then turned them on. Which the hovercraft thing was like a 13 horse engine, horizontal shaft shoved on the back with like a 3-foot diameter fan blade, and the damn thing was just the most dangerous contraption on the planet because 13 horsepower engine is absolutely ridiculous in terms of power when hooked up to a fan like that. Like I turned it on and like did the fan full blast, and plants were flying out of the ground in my neighbor's yard, so like I had to turn it off. So like if you ever stuck your arm into one of those things, it'd just take your arm clean off. I mean, you would hope that the bit in the the on the shaft would actually break before that, but it's moving so damn quick that your things are going to come off. And of course, I was not good enough at building physical things that I could make like a safety cage or something that wasn't just a complete pile of crap. So I eventually just junked them because the concept of actually using that thing and moving around was not a good idea. We still got the engines. They're still there at my parents' place. I could still bring them out and make other implements of destruction. Anyway, this thing is going to be compiling here for a while, so I'm going to go grab some food and all that, and I'm going to be back probably like, 10 minutes or so. So thanks for sticking around, and I will get back online shortly. This thing will be compiling for the next like 40 minutes anyway. So we'll start fixing a few of these things. It's saying that the scene capture component show only IDs doesn't exist, so let's go to scene capture component.h. Yeah, I thought we fixed this. There should be a T set here for this this thing. Yeah, thank you, Kerkin. So I'm going to pop open the current solution here from the working project and see it should be scene capture component.h. So I think that'll fix that error that we saw earlier. Let's see if there's any others. With C++ stuff, just because you have one error doesn't mean the rest of the build can't just go on and try to build all the things. So paper flipbook is trying to use paper physics component. So I'm going to include the header here, it looks like. Paper physics component.h. Yeah, so that should fix that issue we got with paper 2D. Now we just got to build all of this stuff. Well, I'm not too concerned about all the merging stuff. We actually didn't have too many scary things to merge. Just a lot of little things that we didn't have a basis for the history in the change. So that's kind of an issue, where if you don't have a history for the merges and all that stuff, because we're not using get anymore. We started off this project using get for our version control, which is what Unreal uses. So like we have the full history of all the files and all that cool stuff, but we were unable to continue using get, and that was because basically the stuff like file locking for art assets and the rest there, we really needed that. It was very difficult for Atom to use get, even with using like Smart Get and some other visual editors. And then like the large file storage for get doesn't really work yet. It's not there. So a lot of the tools weren't working properly, and I was just like, I had to pull the plug on it. I was like, this is not, like we were basically like trying to debug get issues over Skype or over Discord, and just like not a chance in hell of us solving anything. So let's see. Well, we're probably going to be here compiling for another Why do you need file locking? If we're both working on the same level file, it's a binary file, so it cannot be merged. So if like both Adam and I were working on the same level file, we wouldn't be able to save our changes, or one of us would save our changes and then just like overwrite the other guy's change. And all the UAsset stuff for Unreal is binary files. So anytime any one of us would have like some sort of asset that we're messing with, we'd be stomping over each other's changes, and that's not acceptable. And there's no way to know that somebody has that file checked out or anything like that. So, you know, that's just not acceptable. That wouldn't work. And the binary assets are also quite large. So with Git, when you pull down a repository, you pull down the repository and all the history. So those binary file, like the UAssets and all that stuff, they're a little bit too big for Git. So yeah, it's kind of a real pain in the ass. And that's usually how game development goes. Like game development, you usually do not use Git. Git is what we used for like kind of like at Amazon. We used Perforce when I was at Amazon Game Studios for our game stuff, and we used Git for all of our platform code. So like all of our Java and C++ code for our servers, you know, there's no assets there. We were using Git because Git is so much better for version control for engineers to work with. And we use Perforce for all the game stuff because it's what all the tools worked with, and it was much easier to use for our content creators. So what I would assume is in a lot of Unreal setups, it would be really nice to have the code for like Unreal inside of Git, and at the same time use Perforce for your actual like game assets and UAssets. So, you know, at the beginning of your day, basically your content creators would just sync down Perforce, and they would also sync down like the editor that was built by your build machine or something like that. So they wouldn't even have to build any of that crap. And then your engineers could, you know, they could sync Git and they could sync Perforce, and they'd have all the assets they wanted and all the code they wanted in kind of the same workspace. And that works real well. We've done that at some where, like, when we're working on Dragon Age Legends, we used Git for the source code and we used Perforce for all the art assets. And that seemed like a very good combination of, you know, functional and, you know, we didn't have those religious holy wars about version control. It was, well, we did, of course, but, you know, it's like Git's really good at some things, let's use it for those things. Perforce is really good at other things, let's use it for those things. And, you know, do what makes sense. Also, Adam's never used version control before this project, so it's much easier to get across how Perforce works than it is to get across how Git works. Especially when you got somebody who's a content creator and they really don't have a vested interest in knowing or understanding like version control systems. Like, it's just like, okay, dude, I draw pretty pictures. I don't give two fucks like about file system stuff. Like, please, I'm not gonna learn this. So, versus engineer, you should know all those things. That's kind of your job. But it looks like we're getting close to actually getting all this stuff built. Yeah, the other thing was, like, when we switched over to Perforce, we switched over to using Perforce hosted by Assembla, which was costing us money every month. But I eventually switched over to hosting my own Perforce on AWS, and it's free for less than 5 people. So, hey, free Perforce. So it's not like we're paying, you know, a huge monthly bill or something for it. Yeah, I really like Git. You're using Bitbucket? I've never used Bitbucket. What do they got? Bitbucket. Is that the Git solution for professional teams? Well, how does learn how to use Git LFS to store large assets? Yeah, okay, so that's the Git LFS stuff though. Like, just doesn't work with most of the tools out there. So you still have to learn Git and get those LFS files to resolve properly locally, which is a giant pain in the ass. Like, a lot of the tools don't support fetching those hashed file contents down, which was our major problem there, right? Like, we ended up where like Adam would end up submitting the hashed file contents and crap like that instead of the file contents, and stuff would get all stomped over each other, and it was a mess. Do we not have the F paper sprite collision objects? Paper sprite.h. It's right here. So I guess we need to include paper sprite, and we're not doing that? Alright. It's hard to find the diffs page. Well, that's not a huge complaint, to be honest. That's not too bad. Yeah, I was for my Get stuff at Amazon, I was running oh god, what the hell was it? Oh, it was GitLab. Yeah, I ran GitLab for my team on our own thing, and GitLab works really well. I really liked using GitLab. Because yeah, we got approval to use GitLab internally. Amazon has its own Git farm and like all this crazy stuff, but we're working on the game team, and we didn't want to hook into all that stuff too awfully. So get enum name is deprecated. Call get name string by index instead. All right. Well, that's not too bad. NativeX is not a member of fmonitor.info. Yeah, that's true. We should be setting... We have something new now. It's not NativeX, it's like that. Let's actually go to the monitor info class. Yeah, so I think it's display rect dot left. Yeah, we had all this stuff to like detect which monitor is in which location and all that, which is what you gotta do. Let's see, it's Windows application.h. So let's hope that works. And the reason we were using GitLab as opposed to like the main Amazon Git farm was due to like credential stuff. Like Amazon engineers run almost all their machines on Linux for all their development, which of course we're running in a game studio, so we needed Windows workstations, and switching between a Windows machine and a Linux machine was just too much of a pain in the butt for us. So we needed to have all of our tools and deployment and everything work properly on our machines, and none of it was supported with Windows, so that was unfortunate for us. So we had to do that. And swapping back and forth between the Linux stuff was just a gigantic pain in the ass, because they wouldn't give us very good KVM switches or anything like that, so we ended up just chucking our Linux boxes after a while. They're pieces of garbage anyway. They didn't give us very good Linux boxes versus our Windows machines, which were, like i7s with very good cores, and, 64 RAM and all that, versus this like 8 GB Linux piece of junk box. Because most of the development at Amazon, you're working on pretty low power stuff. So they didn't need it. So Amazon is all about being frugal and being efficient with your monies. Device name, we don't need you. Device is blah. So it's actually like, I think I told that story before, like it was because when they started doing game development, they finally rolled around to having engineers get 2 monitors at work as like the standard thing. It was because the games department guys just like absolutely just fought tooth and nail, just like, this is not okay. And you would think it'd be pretty obvious that, engineers need more than one monitor. But no, obviously not. So we're slowly just fixing our compile errors. It looks like we're getting real close to actually running our updated engine. And when we run our updated engine, well, hopefully it actually runs the damn game properly. Compiler has generated an equals operator here. That is bad. So we need Dashkin entity actor. So what exactly is this pissed about?